And now, ladies and gentlemen, yes, from some undisclosed location somewhere in the world where we don't know, and he never tells, and that's a good thing. But ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present to you the one and only Mr. Jesse T.
My, oh my, oh my. What a different introduction that was today. And yes, I never tell where I'm at because, quite frankly, half the time I don't even remember what I'm doing or where I'm at myself. So I just kind of show up and make it happen as I go. It's me, Jesse T. Good to be back on the air with you here at www.andthepowerofvoices.com. Of course, in the global radio network all around the world, on the air and everywhere, from the community to the world. I am broadcasting from the Gray Ghost, that I will tell you. But the Gray Ghost underneath me, I never know where she's going. She sometimes just takes me to places that are quite surprising and interesting. Hey, also, we're on AVTV Live and the Digital Broadcasting TV Network. Oh, about 21 different social network sites we're hooked up to. Instagram Live, Periscope. Also, we can't forget about our friends there at YouTube and The Power of Voices, and our website, thepowerofvoices.com, as well as Jesse Terrero on YouTube and our other website at aventertainmentlive.com, and many Facebook sites like facebook.com/Jesse Terrero 1/The Power of Voices 2/Straight on the Point 3, and so many others. I won't confuse you, but we are here together. It is a Monday in Southern California, and what a beautiful day it is. Just another day in the Pacific Paradise. A little bit hazy and smoggy. I came over the mountains, 10,000-foot mountain range of the Los Angeles National Forest today. Cut about 45 minutes out of my time into the valley. And, boy, I saw a lot of green, beautiful trees. And then all of a sudden, boom, I see the basin of Los Angeles, and it's got that kind of little brown kind of tint to it. So that means there's a lot of smog in the air. So we are producing our part of the poison in our atmosphere. Of course, over the weekend, I saw a lot of chemtrails up in the sky. And, those aren't made by Mother Nature or God. Those are actually made by jets crisscrossing the sky at about 65,000 feet. And many of them are remote controlled now, like the drones that they fly all around the world. And they're dumping boric silver nitrate and boric acid particles and all kinds of things into our atmosphere for about 50 years after World War II around the world to try to control atmospheric and weather conditions, but yet it poisons the ground and the water and our food and our vegetables and our trees. And of course, it gets into people's lungs. But, hey, they don't care about us because we don't matter to them. No, it seems like we don't matter to much of anybody anymore, certainly to the United States court system. There is a little bit of a hypocrisy of democracy going on, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the show. But right now, we're going to bring on a terrific friend of mine. We had her in the studio live, and she did such a wonderful job explaining the situation of how O.J. Simpson, you remember that guy, the murderer who just got out? Well, actually, he's going to be out in October, November of this year. He lopped off the heads of two innocent people, very violent man, but, he got off of that one, but he did get busted in Nevada and thrown in jail for about 9 years or so, but he got paroled recently. And so we have really a terrific author. She teamed up with a LAPD detective, and both of them put together quite extensive research into a book about O.J. Simpson and how he killed Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman Jr. So with further ado, I'm going to bring on our show for the second time because she's got some updated information, which is really cool, and we got to keep the pressure on this monster. Cheryl Kane. Cheryl, how are you?
Great, Jesse. Thank you for the introduction. And the name of the book is O.J. Simpson, the Killer, a minute-by-minute account of the homicides of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
And it is a terrific book. I had the opportunity to read about half of it when she was in studio last time. There's some amazing item by item, moment by moment dissertation, a kind of a chronological sequence of time of how O.J. Simpson did that. One of the questions that has been asked me a lot, Cheryl, about that show and your book and your research with the detective is you guys weren't there moment by moment, but how were you able to kind of put all the different minutes together? How did that happen?
Well, first of all, Detective Pembroke is a brilliant detective. He did hours and years of research on his over 400-page manuscript, which I worked on. But first of all, we have a prediction. Detective Pembroke and I have a prediction. Just as Nicole Brown...
wait a minute. A prediction going on here. All right, let's hear what it is. What are you predicting is going to happen?
Okay. Just as Nicole Brown Simpson said, he's going to kill me, and he's going to get away with it. Detective Pembroke and I have our own prediction. He's going to claim CTE and get a multi-million-dollar tax-free settlement from the NFL and eventually help destroy the sport that saved his life and made him rich and famous. He'll bite
now,
the
what
hand.
is that? What is a CTE?
Okay, CTE is the NFL finally admitted existence of chronic traumatic encephalopathy and agreed
to... so it's all the head injuries that football players get.
Injuries. But in O.J. Simpson's case, he's going to have a big problem because, number one, the deposition in the civil case will come back to bite him. When the Goldmans and the Browns received the $33 million judgment, it'll come back to haunt him because Mr. Petrotelli, who had multiple videotapes of Simpson's civil deposition, and he tried to get O.J. Simpson to admit he used knives as a weapon when he was running with the gangs in fights as a teenager, when he was in the projects of San Francisco. Now, O.J. Simpson was smart enough not to admit to using knives, but he clearly had a violent past, and he said, yes, he was a gang member. Yes, he admitted it. And if they came, quote, if they came after us with tire irons, we'd go after them with baseball bats. He was a violent young man before college or pro football.
So now this came out of the civil lawsuit, not the criminal lawsuit.
Exactly.
And what you're stating, you and Officer Pembroke, you're saying that you believe that because now the NFL is awarding a lot of help and care and money to people like the Junior Seau family, who had severe head injuries as a linebacker in the NFL for all those years, but they now are recognizing this, and you're saying that they're going to bring a lawsuit or something against the NFL to try to acquire all of that money, correct?
Well, the NFL set aside a fund. It's in the court system that living players who can prove damage, that brain injuries suffered during playing pro football, they set aside a fund to pay them $4 to $5 million, which would be tax-free as a personal injury settlement. And
none of this can be towards that $30+ million settlement. None of it can go to that.
I don't think the Goldmans or the Browns would be able to touch it, and it would just be another move by O.J. Simpson. And he never takes responsibility for his own actions. He blames everything on everybody else. But the thing is, before the NFL writes him a check for 2 cents, they should look into his background, and not just the civil case, but it goes back to his childhood. He was
now. Are you going to be doing anything to make sure that the NFL does that? Your organization.
we sent him a copy of our book, but bottom line is we have this on tape. He was on tape for many of the documentaries that were done about him, and he was smiling and laughing about how he hustled as a kid. Between the ages of 5 and 7, we hustled, and he hung out with a bunch of other 5 and 7-year-old kids in the projects. He was damaged goods to begin with. He describes what he did like a episode from the Little Rascal show. He talked about there was a pie factory near where he lived and they stole pies. Okay, that's cute. But they were also engaged in purse snatching, which is long-armed robbery. As a child, he would steal anything and everything he could get away with. He was out of control as a child, and his own mother, Eunice, knew that he had a serious problem. He used to kill and torture small animals, engage in petty theft as a child.
Now, how do we know all this? Because was all this in the civil case, or is this
in
from previous
documentaries.
history?
He talked about it on camera, and he said, "I've hustled all my life," and he laughed about it like it was cute. And he got arrested for gang violence at the age of 18, and his mother, Eunice, knew he had a problem, and she got the legendary Willie Mays to intervene and steer him.
Oh, Willie Mays, right.
Yeah, steer him towards sports and his natural talents in football. And Willie Mays volunteered to help young kids at risk for gang violence and jail time.
Now, not only is that possibility going to happen, but also he gets all the money from his retirement and pension fund while he's been in jail from the NFL. That must be added up to $2-3 million now or more.
It adds up. I don't know the exact figure, but the
so
point
he's
is,
going to walk out. He's going to walk out in the end of this year, 2017. For sure, he's going to have a cool couple $1 million in his hand, and whatever monies he has hidden around the world that they couldn't find or get. He's paid a very small amount of that $30+ million lawsuit. How much has he paid on that so far?
I don't know the exact amount, but very small amount, and he vowed never to pay them a cent if he could get away with it. But basically,
and your prediction is he's now going to get involved in all this concussion stuff that the NFL is taking care of and starting to work with all the existing living players. That he's gonna have even more money.
Right, and basically he has a lifelong history of rape and others. He's predisposed to that. He never takes responsibility for anything. And, football is still the most popular sport in America. If just 10% of American parents decide that football is too dangerous to play, eventually it'll end the game. Scholarship opportunities will dry up and kids will be directed to other sports. And already there's a recent news story about one high school kid who got a football scholarship to a major university, and his mother didn't want him to take it. He also was offered a scholarship in basketball to another prestigious university. His mother urged him to take the basketball scholarship in the interest of his long-term health and safety. And I hear what you're saying. I don't think that I don't think that that's ever going to stop. Football will continue on because it is such a way for a lot of folks to better their lives and such like that. And a lot of people will take make the decision that it's worth it to them. But back to OJ, in terms of what happened to him, your point and case is the fact that he was violent from a child on. So this thing that happened with his murder of these two innocent people, this was just a long line of his violence being exposed in the public forum. Right. He was born with no conscience, moral compass. And even his best friend, A.C. Cowlings, used to call him the instigator in gang violence. We have that in one of the documentaries. He would start fights between rival gangs, and then he would disappear and come back and say, "Oh, what's happening here?" He would not take the responsibility for anything. And that's
one of the things that you get from your book. A couple of things that just jump out at you from that terrific book is, one, the absolute violence of what took place, and two, the fact that there was absolutely no remorse or accountability for anything, and three, the evidence that was not allowed into the trial. These are the three things that you get out of your book that are just compelling.
Exactly, and our
should have never, in my opinion, gone free.
No, and well, he should be in jail for the rest of his life for the murders, but that didn't happen.
Well, there should have been extenuating circumstances too, with the death penalty hanging over him, in my opinion. But
right.
Now this guy is going to get out. He's going to restart his life. He's got money sitting in the kitty in the bank from all that pension money that he was receiving while he's in jail for almost 10 years. He's got this potential prediction that you folks are talking about, and it makes perfectly great sense and logic that he would do that because it provides more money for him.
Exactly.
I predict this, that he's not going to.
And he will go after it. And he just has no conscience, and he is pure evil. If you had a
my prediction is this, Cheryl, is that I believe with absolute resolve that within 5 years, really maybe within 3 years, in Florida where he retreats to, he's going to find himself in some other disastrous turmoil that's going to cause tragedy in somebody's life again, because the propensity that he has, it seems, his whole life for problems is just not going to stop. You don't get rehabilitated in prison. It doesn't happen.
And he learned from an early age that his brute force and rage combined with charm could control his destiny. And that's his MO in life. And he was in trouble multiple times in Florida before the incident in Las Vegas that put him in jail for 9 years. And
he also charmed his way to the parole board members who granted him parole when the stuff has been released now on what happened at that parole hearing. And, with his O.J. Simpson smile and his O.J. Simpson charm.
And his continuous lies, one lie after another. I never did substance abuse. I always got along well with people. No one ever accused me of using a weapon against them. I'm sorry, but that was one lie after another. And he's incapable of taking responsibility for his own actions, and it's always going to be someone else's fault. He rambled on at that parole hearing for 30 minutes before he finally said, I take responsibility for my actions, I'm sorry. Then he started to blame, it was the security guard's fault. He told one lie after another. And
Unbelievable. Cheryl Cain, everybody, the author with Detective Pembroke, and his manuscript and his research for years and years and years, and the author of a terrific book. And the name of the title of the book, again, I want to make sure I get it right. What is it, Cheryl?
It's O.J. Simpson, the Killer, a minute-by-minute account of the homicides of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. And basically, our bottom line is he can't blame his violent acts on the NFL and the sport of football any more than he can blame the Colombian drug lords or any other group or entity for the brutal murders of Ron and Nicole, which he committed in cold blood. It's all in the pages of our book.
And that book you can buy just about anywhere now, can't you?
Yes,
I know it's
you
on
can.
Amazon and Kindle, I believe, now.
Yes, you can.
And Barnes & Noble as well?
Yes, you can, and if they don't have it in stock, you can order it. I
Absolutely.
think
It's a
anyone
great
should
book.
read it,
It really
especially
is.
if you're going to be his neighbor in Florida.
Yeah, the whole neighborhood should get a book from your publisher in Florida. You talk about protecting the innocent citizens of that neighborhood. Oh, my goodness. Lord help us. All right, Cheryl. Hey, I appreciate you checking. Will you continue to keep us updated on these events? Because
Absolutely, because
we have to keep the pressure on O.J. Simpson. I have always believed that he murdered those two people. I've always believed that right to my gut when it first came around, and I'm very disappointed that he was released on parole, but that was for a different crime. And as far as the people in the state of Nevada, they felt he did his time, and they released him on parole. But it just saddens me and everybody that's watching and listening that two people, their lives ended at such a young age, and nothing has been done to help them and their families. So we have to continue the fight, and I appreciate your hard work and your effort, and please keep us updated on this, and we will always get these latest updates from you, Cheryl. Once again, the book, Cheryl, the book again, give it out one more time.
O.J. Simpson, The Killer, a minute-by-minute account of the homicides of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
And you can get it everywhere. So buy it, read it. It's captivating. It's just you can't put it down once you read it, and
you'll have no doubt there was only one killer, and that killer was O.J. Simpson.
Thanks, Cheryl, for checking in with us here on the Jesse T Show.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
You got an open door policy. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Okay.
AVTV Live and the Digital Broadcasting TV Network, always bringing you the stuff that's right on the cutting edge, literally OJ on the cutting edge. And that kind of marries well into our next topic and the hypocrisy of democracy. Wanted to talk about that today because we do live in a very odd time where honesty and honor, ethic and morality, compassion and empathy seem to be falling by the wayside very quickly. Violence and anger, fear and meanness, lies and cheaters seem to be rising to the heights of our businesses, our politics, our schools, in every part of our everyday living. It seems like the bad guys get off and the good guys get the worst part of justice that comes their way when they may or something has gone wrong in their life. The hypocrisy of democracy is a concept that I've had and talked about for decades and decades. This is the Jesse T Show on www.thepowerofvoices.com. Good to have you along with us as you chime in. We appreciate all our friends on Facebook.com/Jesse Terrero, Facebook.com/The Power of Voices. And we're broadcasting live right now on YouTube Live, The Power of Voices, and YouTube Live, Jesse Terrero. Thanks a lot for sharing out and liking us and letting everybody know. Well, you've done a great job for us, folks, and we appreciate that. And just like what happened on Google Plus for us, we've got a confirmed communique from Google that the Jesse T Show has been viewed over 917,000 times. And hundreds of thousands of shares go out on our website on Facebook.com/Jesse Terrero, and it's shared out as well. So we really appreciate that. Please keep up the effort, and after all, we can't do our show without you, our friends watching and listening on thepowerofvoices.com. Hey, this weekend, just before we jump into the next topic, this weekend we were out at Pat Nesbitt's beautiful mansion in Montecito, a 65,000 square foot mansion, being sold now for $65 million. He's a hotel magnate, a billionaire. And we were out there for a terrific party and money raising event for Stephen C. Barber. Now, if you remember who Stephen C. Barber is, we had Stephen Barber and Tamara Henry, as well as Ed Losey, the great PR man in Los Angeles here, the very best, and in my personal humble opinion, the very best PR man in the city and anywhere for that matter. In fact, he was a PR person for A.C. Collins. Isn't it unique how everything ties together in this crazy world? It's such a small world. It really is. But nevertheless, we were out there helping Steve Barber raise money for a brand new project called Into the Light, the Cayman Aaron story. Into the Light, the Coleman Aaron story. I'll say it again. Into the Light, the Coleman Aaron story. And we were out there helping him raise some money. They invited some very wealthy and donors that are sympathetic to the World War II and understand the Nazi concentration camps and the surviving members and that are left and are passing away very quickly now. Coleman Aaron is still alive and living in Beverly Hills. He's one of the world's greatest artists, one of the world's greatest painters, portrait painters, landscape painters. He is one of the world's greatest artists with a pencil and charcoal. The guy is unbelievable. He's painted everybody in the world during his time. He used to hang out with Picasso and Ernest Hemingway. He knew all of these people. He was a child prodigy artist, still is. And he has a compelling and very interesting story of how he survived 7 concentration camps. And just a real quick piece on that. His family was in one line. He was in another line because he was a younger child of 12 or so. And they were separating their families and putting them into different lines for the ones that would live and become laborers, the ones that would die and go into the gas chamber, the ones that would die by shooting them, the ones that would die by starvation. And as they got off the trains like cattle, the Nazis would separate them into these lines, and they separated his family over here, and they separated him over here because he was a child, and he was strong, 12-year-old. He was a boy that could work. He was going to go either be killed or into a labor situation, labor camp. His whole family was destroyed, murdered, and killed. Never saw him again. What he did, he picked up a scratched piece of paper that was on the ground, a piece of cardboard or something, and he had a pencil. And as he was standing in line, he sketched the Nazi guard officer, his face, absolutely perfectly. So the Nazi officer saw this kid doing that, and they were going to kill him immediately because that's what they did. They didn't want their pictures out there for any reason. Remember, there were no cameras at the time. So artists were very, very much in demand. That's how a lot of things were done, because nobody had cameras like they do today or video equipment or anything like that. So he sketched this picture of this Nazi officer guard, SS trooper guard, and the guy grabbed it from him and said, "What's this?" He looked at it and he saw his own self in this sketch. And he was so overwhelmed by it and so excited that he was actually looking at himself like looking at a mirror. That's how good this 12-year-old was, Coleman Aaron, and he's still spectacular in his 90s, that he let him live. And he said, "I want you to sketch me again, and I'm going to send that painting to my mistress." And that's what they would do. So he survived concentration camps by doing this for all the officers who would send them to their mistresses. Very interesting story. So it's about his life and how he was able to survive and the beauty of his artist work. That's what they call From the Dark into the Light. So we were out in Montecito, California, for a terrific party raising funds for that. And we saw another terrific film about Colonel Ramsey that Stephen Barber made, and a filmmaker there. They presented this film. It was on last year's Academy Award nomination list as one of the best documentaries. It didn't win, but it was right there on the short list. So this was a terrific film called Never Surrender. So we had a great time, and it's up online. The archive show is on facebook.com/Jesse Terrero, and you can kind of swivel down a little bit or skim down a little bit. You'll see it in the photos that we have. And it was just a terrific outing, and we were able to help him raise some money and get the word out about this great film that they're shooting now, but they do have to raise more funds. So if you have some compassion towards this story and want to check it out, contact Steve Barber, and you can get his information off of IMDb. That's a website, IMDb. That's where all us Hollywood types have our information. So do that, will you? Now, talking a little bit about the hypocrisy of democracy. Have you ever felt that when you went into court, let's start right there, that you did something wrong, maybe not that bad, but you kind of did something wrong, or somebody's suing you, or you're suing somebody, and you had to go get representation because you didn't want to have the public defender, because everybody knows what the public defender does is just fill jails. So you go into court and you feel like, wow, the judge didn't even pay attention to you, or wow, the other party you were fighting had better attorneys and they could speak quicker and knew more law, or could oratory a little bit better, or wow, you feel like you just didn't get justice. And then you watch TV that night, and people like O.J. Simpson, who have $60 million to spend, hire the dream team, and he gets justice. Or people like Beretta. Remember Beretta, Bobby Blake, who killed his wife, but spent about $10 million, and he got justice his way. And it seems to me that people that have some celebrity and VIP or political power or behind the closed door influence seem to be the ones that always win when you're in court. Don't you feel that way? Don't you feel like there's a law for you and me, and there's a law for them being the wealthy elite? Has that ever dawned on you that the court just doesn't seem to be listening to you? And on the other side of it, the bad guys always seem to get break after break after break after break. I mean, we can tell story after story of bad guy who's gotten out. Like the guy who murdered that young lady, the illegal immigrant. He was let out 20 times, deported, came back, let out 20 times. And he murdered that beautiful young lady in San Francisco because he was a drunk, habitual drug user. We hear this story all the time, but they get let out. They get let out. Or how about you California citizens that passed Proposition 47 and 57 to allow murderers and rapists and pedophiles out, to diminish their sentences, to allow arsonists and thieves and people who commit battery and murder and theft and carjacking out. But you get a ticket and the judge will throw you in jail for 30 days. Yep. Doesn't seem fair. Well, let me tell you, folks, it isn't fair. When I went to law school, I learned one thing in my first semester of law school. The first thing I learned, it was told to me by one of many of the professors there from that point on, but he was the first one that said this to me, and I was 34 years old when I went to law school. Not 24, 34. I have a successful business at the time, real estate and loans, and things were going great. What Professor Herzenberg said, and Professor Ackrich, they said to me, and everybody, the law is the law. Right now, throw morality, throw honor, throw honesty, throw ethic, throw what is right or what is wrong, throw personal opinion, throw constitutionality, throw everything that you may believe in, whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant, because the only thing that matters is the law. And the law can be manipulated and changed by attorneys who create arguments through research and understanding win. And it's all about winning at all costs and every cost. Winning. Winning, winning, winning means you keep your job as a DA or public defender. It means you keep your job working for a big law firm as a litigant or a contracts attorney. The more you win, the more money you make, and the longer you're employed. Now, when they said that to me, I got up. Can't help but being me, Jesse T. I got up, stood up, the class is hushed quiet, and I said, Professor Akridge, what you're telling me that if I walk down to the front of the podium, and I went down the hall, the middle of the hall, between the two sides of the seats, and I walked down to the middle of the podium, and I come to where you're at, and I stood right in front of him, looking up at him, because he was on a pedestal, and I pick up that pedestal, and I touch the pedestal, and I take it, and I swing it at the top of your head, and I knock you clean over to that door. If I have an attorney like the Dream Team, because that's when the O.J. Simpson trial was going on, if I have an attorney like the Dream Team and you don't, there's a good chance I'm going to win. And you know what he said to me? There's a good chance you're going to win. And I looked at him. The class was hush quiet. And I raised my eyebrow like this. And I looked at him. And I went. I turned around and I walked back up to my seat. At that moment, I knew I was not going to be an attorney. I was never going to take the bar, and I was never going to be a lawyer. I was never going to do it. Because for me, ethic and honor, morality, honesty, a man's as good as his word, and if his word's no good, he's no good. Same goes for women. That means everything to me. There's common sense and logic in what is right. The universe has right and wrong in it. That's built in. And we know what's right, and we know what's wrong unless we're psychologically impaired or drug-induced in some chemical reaction. We know what's right, and we know what's wrong. And I knew right then and there that I was not going to be an attorney. So, I learned a lesson that day. And he then, as I was walking back up and sat down, Akridge said, when you go into the court of law, it's a 50-50 chance. In criminal law, when you break statutory or statutes, you broke the statute, it's more cut and dry. Well, I said, it wasn't cut and dry for Nicole Brown Simpson or Ron Goldman Jr. They got cut and their bodies dried out, and OJ got to have a wild time in Florida. It's the hypocrisy of democracy, folks. And it starts in our court systems. The liberal lunatic lefties have created such a liberal court system here in California through the assembly, the legislature, and the Senate, and the governor, that we live in a society where really there is no law. If you're a bad guy, you get the law on your side, and you get let out. If you're a bad guy, you get the best attorneys, and you get let out. But if you're a good guy, just trying to do the right thing, and you think that truth and honesty will prevail, oh, it does, but not too often. Shame, isn't it? The hypocrisy of democracy. Now think about that for a second. Where else do we find hypocrisy? Oh, could it be in the political agenda? Maybe so, huh? Doesn't it just bother you folks and irk you to the bone that our politicians lie, cheat, change their story, have scandal after scandal, go in not rich but come out wealthy elites? Their smug, obnoxious, greedy, powerful attitudes, that their poop doesn't stink. Doesn't it just bother you to see people change their position because the political wind says they should? Because if they don't, they won't get reelected? Doesn't it just bother you at all that our political system is full of greedy people that are self-centered and only care about themselves? Do you not see that? Do you not see that in what they're doing to Donald Trump? Did you not see that in what they did to Obama? Did you not see that in what they do to Bush, Clinton, all our presidents who are at the top of the heap of hypocrisy? All of them. Can't you understand in any kind of minimality that really the politicians do not care about you? They don't. They care about themselves and getting reelected. I ran for city council here in the city of Los Angeles recently for city council seat District 7. A corrupt councilman vacated the seat before he got hauled into jail. Yeah. Then he went out and got $1 million consultation job because of all his backdoor contacts. Yeah. Unbelievable, huh? Felipe Fuentes. Anyway, my opinion about him is very low because he did nothing for his district. Nothing. Nothing. Okay. I ran for that chair, that seat, up to September, October of last year. And then I decided to step out and not run anymore. And the reason why I did that was very simple. I am the co-director of the Coalition Against Human Trafficking here in Los Angeles. At that time, I was working with my friend, Cindy Sauer. And we built a coalition, and the name of it is CAHT, C-A-H-T. We were able to clean up an area that had a 100-year human trafficking and prostitution, pimping, and John problem. 100 years. Since San Fernando Road was a dirt road back at the turn of the 20th century. We're talking 1867. We were able to clean it up. When I joined the team, she had been fighting it for 25 years. I came on board and we cleaned it up within 3 years. Now, I've been doing this for 7 years, 8 years now. So, in saying that, we created all kinds of noise for the newspapers and all the TV news stations and radio stations. They were constantly interviewing us and myself. And since I had the most experience, I was always the one being interviewed. And I spoke at the John program. That's where the guys who and girls who solicit sex illegally on the street get wrapped up in sting operations. They have one chance to expunge it from their record. And I would speak at the John program for a couple of years as a community activist and community member, talking about what they're doing to the community. We saved a half a dozen plus little girls, 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds, from being scurried out of the country or over state lines. We busted ourselves, were contributing to 59 busts of human traffickers and pimps. We helped foster all the programs of the human trafficking task force team here with LAPD and the county sheriff's department, because we were creating so much noise with the city council and the news and the mayor and the senators, and all the way up to the federal level with the help of Tony Cardenas, Congressman Cardenas, and his juvenile justice program. We were able to, with the community members and homeowners and businesses, to create such a tornado that they had to deal with us, and they finally got funded at the state level, at the city level, whatever, and everything was fine. Then they started cleaning up the problem, and they really got on board, and it really started to grow exponentially, the cleanup problem. But then one day, Councilwoman Nury Martinez in CD6, the funding ran out, and no more funding was being contributed to it. They cut back on the task force. And that bothered me a lot. Didn't they think that the problem was going to come back? Well, it has. You see, it helped her get reelected. It helped her get elected, and it helped her solidify herself as a warrior. Now, my hat's off to Councilman Nury Martinez, Councilwoman. She's done a great job, but they've kind of stopped a little bit. Now they're getting back on board. It bothered me a lot, to the point that I realized what took place is that you have to change when you get into politics, because you got to give something to get something, even if it's something you aren't morally or ethically or honorably believe in. Sort of reminds me of law. Wasn't for me. The hypocrisy of democracy happens in our political systems. It certainly happens in our fake news media of CNN and all the other ones. Fox has a certain amount of fake news too. You have to really research through and be well read and well schooled on to kind of disseminate what's fake and what's not. But the hypocrisy of democracy is even in our media. How about you as a person? The hypocrisy of democracy. Are you a hypocrite? Do you have hypocrisy going on? Look at yourself and say, am I a man, am I a woman that stands on what I say? I do what I say. I live an honorable and ethic and moral life. And I try to treat people in an honorable way, irrespective of their politics or religion or whatever. And I say what I'm going to do, then I do what I'm going to say. And I pay back when I pay back. Ask yourself that. I think our world would be a better place if more people stopped being hypocrites. The Jesse T Show right here on thepowervoices.com. Yes, that's the world according to Torero. Now you're straight on the points. Tomorrow, a great show lined up for you, live at 5 on ABTV Live, the digital broadcasting network. The Brown Beauty is off duty. See ya!
Why are you leaving now?
Because you played my anthem.
But it's not playing now. You've got 6 more minutes to run your mouth.
Oh, I can run my mouth for 6 more minutes. In fact, since the show is over with and we're still on the air, what I'm going to do is I stopped off at El Pollo Loco, right? And I got myself a vegetarian burrito, right? Because I'm training hard. In fact, I'm going to go run Griffith Park Mountains. Look at the size of this burrito. Is that a monster burrito or what? And I'm going to take a bite right now. Mmm. 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 This is really good. The El Pollo burrito. Big, thick, juicy, vegetarian style, no chicken, an extra scoop of beans. Mm. It is the best thing to eat when you're hungry. Maybe El Pollo should hire me for a commercial. If there's any El Pollo executives out there, I'm eating your burrito. You see? I'm proving there's your bag. So I am eating your burrito. It's very good. Mm. Hey, Lee.
Hey, Jesse.
Where were you? You didn't join us in Montecito, man. You were supposed to come up there with us.
Yeah, I forgot, and then I got tied up doing some other running around. Did they miss me?
I missed you.
Well, you don't count.
I got to change. People are getting a lot of sunlight here, so I better move this over here like this.
Yeah, we got a.
What do you think about that concept that OJ is going to get some more money from the head trauma injury that the NFL is dealing with now?
Well, I think if he was going to try to go after that, I think he might have done it before now. And I don't know if it prevented him from doing it. Can you can't have a
no, not when you're in jail. You can't sue anybody.
Really?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, maybe that's why, but I'd be surprised if he could get that to stick. Well, I mean, he hasn't complained about any brain injuries thus far, or has he? I know he's complaining about his knees and legs.
No, what he's going to do is he's going to blame all his problems in his adult life after football on the brain injury. So he's going to blame the trial of the O.J. Simpson murder. He's going to blame the stuff that happened in Vegas. All his problems he's running with the law in Florida. He's going to blame everything on like PTSD. Basically, that's what it is. The head gets hit so many hard times, like Junior Seau, right? Mm-hmm. It drove Junior Seau to commit suicide, and so it's legitimate.
Well,
and
is it legitimate?
A time when football was a tougher game.
Well, true, but is it legitimate for him to claim that at this point in time? I'm not sure on that one. I wouldn't.
Well, I agree with you. It's not legitimate, but with fancy lawyers, they're going to get it done.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. I'm
a little interested to follow that one.
Yeah, I don't know if he can make that stick.
If that's the case, then I'm going to sue all the radio stations that fired me because they fired me under circumstances that were less than proper, and they hurt me personally and scarred me for life. So now that I have to go to the rehab center, the land of Lee Michaels, to get rehabbed.
And I'm working hard at it. I'm not sure that we can save you. You burrito eating on the air moron. See, you would have gotten fired in commercial radio for doing that.
Well, then they would fire
for eating
me.
On the air.
I used to eat on the air all the time.
Well, that's cardinal rule number 1.
What?
Eating on the air is not allowed.
Why?
Well, because maybe back in your music radio days, you could eat in between songs or during the song, but you couldn't eat while you were talking. So you certainly couldn't have done that in a talk format.
But let me tell you something. I think that's changed to some degree because I think you can get away with a lot more than you used to be able to.
Well, on the internet, yes. I don't think you can get away with it in commercial radio.
I think that commercial radio at some point is going to die so hard, what last breath it's on, that they're gonna start marrying the digital feeds that we give out, and that's going to become like a marriage between the digital internet radio and TV into radio, and it's gonna open things wide up to what can be done or not.
I don't disagree with you. I think the world as we knew it in radio has evolved and continues to evolve to be something that what we grew up on will never be again.
No.
And I think that's good in some aspects, not so good in others.
Well, I tend to believe that, like the record business, had they believed in Stephen Jobs when they first started taking his little music thing, his little music. I never owned one. What was it called? A music pad, or what was it called?
iPad?
Steve Jobs.
iPod.
No, the iPod. And all the record companies turned him down and laughed at him. Right. He just wanted to make a deal with a royalty deal to utilize their libraries, right?
Right.
That I think that's what's going to happen to the remnants of radio today. They missed the opportunity to become the leader of digital TV and digital radio. They missed that opportunity because they were only worried about paying off the big debt service on their interest payments, and they got rid of all the creative people in the business, and they're going to suffer for it in this last 5, maybe 10 years as it breaks up.
Well, I think you're right. I don't disagree with you at all. I think that we will see a further slide, however, for another 4 or 5 years before they wake up. And keep in mind, the only way that the broadcast industry can be saved financially is if foreign investors come in and start buying up the radio stations, which they can own 100% of now. Because all of the legitimate opportunities in America at this point, the only legitimate finance institutions like the Bank of Americas and Wells Fargo's and Citibank and Chase, and all those guys are already in those deals for the most part, and a few smaller banks. They're already up to their eyeballs in debt in these big major deals.
Oh, they don't want them.
They're not, But here's the problem. If the current owners of these radio stations walk away from them, why are we still talking? You're off the air. They walk away from them, then these banks will be sitting there with a bunch of bad paper that they will never be able to get rid of, and they'll have to sell it for 25 cents on the dollar.
Yep, and it is going to go back to maybe localization, but they're still going to have a problem competing with what has already changed the way younger people entertain themselves.
Well, maybe so, but in the meantime, the banks will have to become broadcasters or walk away from the bad debt. And I don't know if they want to walk away from billions of dollars. I think they'll become broadcasters. And they'll hire management people to come in and run it, but they're still going to be faced with the same problem. No creativity.
Then it's going to come full circle around that Jesse T can eat a burrito on the air? Oh, no. Man, I like that.
No, that's not going to happen. In fact, in the words of your president, you're fired.
I've heard those words before, man.
All right, we're out of here.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.